The sky above Geneva cracked open like a thunderhead birthing lightning. Admiral Sofia Kuznetsova stood on the bridge of the UN's orbital command station, her hands clasped behind her back, eyes fixed on the main holoscreen. The Karex war fleets materialized without warning, dozens of angular behemoths, their hulls gleaming like obsidian blades under the sun. They were no probes or scouts. These were conquerors blotting out swaths of stars as they deorbited in precise formation. Alarms wailed through the station, red lights pulsing across consoles. Sofia's XO, a wiry Brazilian named Reyes, leaned forward. "Admiral, they're targeting our SATs, comms blackouts already hitting Asia and the Pacific." She nodded once, her jaw tight. The first salvos came fast, silent blooms of plasma that shattered the GPS constellation in seconds. Then the weather arrays, the spy birds. Earth below flickered into partial blindness, cities plunging into isolated pockets of panic. Sofia watched as the lead Karex vessel broadcast its demand. A guttural translation piped through surviving channels, demanding Earth's unconditional surrender within the hour. Primitive resource world. Yield or be harvested. Sofia's fingers itched for the comms panel, but she held back, letting the words hang in the recycled air. Her bridge crew shifted uneasily, nations' flags still patched on their uniforms, old rivalries simmering beneath the surface. Russia, China, the US, the EU, they'd bickered for years over joint defense. Now, with alien guns in their faces, unity was a fragile gamble. "Patch me through to all frequencies," she said finally, her voice steady as Baltic ice. "This is Admiral Sofia Kuznetsova, United Nations Orbital Command. Your demand is rejected. Earth stands. Prepare for resistance." The transmission cut as the first Karex response lit the void. A warning shot that vaporized a derelict station, debris scattering like shrapnel. Sofia turned to Reyes. "Scramble everything. Link national commands under UN rapid response. Now, no opt-outs." Reyes hesitated, glancing at the feeds from Moscow and Beijing. "Admiral, they're fragmented. Half the fleets are still in dry dock from budget cuts." "Then make them move," she snapped, the weight of her estranged daughter's face flashing in her mind. "Trapped in Kyiv." Last message, a garbled plea amid blackouts. "We fight as one or we die divided." Down on the fractured surface, Captain Maya Ortiz gripped the cyclic of the Blackhawk as it skimmed the Hudson River, rotors thumping against the acrid wind. New York was a war zone already. Skyscrapers smoldering from opportunistic looters turned desperate, streets choked with abandoned cars. The Karex drop pods had punched down hours ago, sleek teardrops that birthed infantry swarms in Central Park and Times Square. Maya's team, Luca Devereaux at her side, plus a ragtag mix of Rangers and SAS, pulled from God knows where, huddled in the helo's belly, weapons hot. "ETA 2 mics to the facility," Maya called over the intercom, her voice cutting through the engine roar. She scanned the skyline, spotting Karex skimmers darting like hornets between buildings. Elias Chen was in there, the egghead xenotech whiz, holed up in a UN lab, analyzing the first wreckage. Extract him. Get out. That was the op. Simple on paper, suicide in reality. Luca leaned close, his dark eyes sharp under the helmet. "You see that? Drones inbound, 3 o'clock low." Maya banked hard, the chopper shuddering as she evaded. Tracers stitched the air, but they slipped through, touching down in the shadow of the collapsing research tower. Concrete dust billowed as the team fast roped out, boots hitting rubble. Maya signaled, "Fan out, secure the LZ." Inside the facility was a tomb, labs gutted, servers sparking. They found Elias in the sublevels, barricaded behind a makeshift door of lab benches, his lab coat torn, face smeared with grease. He clutched a salvaged Karex data core like a lifeline. "Captain Ortiz?" he gasped, eyes wide behind cracked glasses. "They hit us hard, infantry everywhere." "I thought—" "Save it for debrief," Maya cut in, slinging his arm over her shoulder. "Luca, demo charges on the exits. We blow and go." The runback was hell. Karex patrols, tall, chitin-armored figures with energy lances, prowled the avenues, their movements eerily synchronized. Maya's team picked off 2 squads in a brutal alley firefight, plasma scorching walls, but the chatter of their rifles felt puny against the aliens' shields. Elias stumbled, coughing from smoke, but kept pace, muttering about the Corps' secrets. Their shields phase. We could hack them, turn the frequency. A burst from Luca's grenade launcher cleared a path, but as they neared the extraction point, Maya's earpiece crackled. Ortiz, this is command. Carrick's heavies inbound. Abort civilians. Evac now. She froze mid-stride, spotting it. A yellow school bus wedged against a subway grate, windows shattered, screams echoing from inside. Dozens trapped, families, kids, pinned by a Carrick scout drone hovering overhead, its turret whining to life. Luca grabbed her arm. Maya, orders, we can't. Like hell, she growled, the image hitting her gut. A boy in the window, wide-eyed, no older than her brother back in the Bronx. Tommy's face, scared but stubborn. She couldn't leave them. Flank the drone. Elias, stay low. Luca, cover fire. The team pivoted, grenades arcing into the drone's underbelly. It exploded in a shower of debris, but the bus rocked, flames licking its side. Maya kicked in the door, hauling out the boy first, small, trembling, clutching a backpack like armor. Come on, kid. I've got you. Civilians poured out in a frantic rush, mothers dragging toddlers, an old man limping. Gunfire cracked from Luca's position, buying seconds. They loaded the bus survivors into a commandeered SUV, but the delay cost. Carrick's reinforcements swarmed, lances searing the air. Maya fired until her mag ran dry, shoving the last woman inside before piling in herself. Drive, she yelled, the vehicle lurching through debris as the chopper lifted off overhead, laying suppressing fire. Aboard the Carrick's flagship, Legate Varun Jex paced the command dais, his mandibles clicking in irritation. The human rejection was predictable. Primitives always bleated defiance. But the scattered resistance irked him. His bridge hummed with tactical overlays, showing drop zones secured, yet pockets of fighting persisted. Yield or be harvested, he'd transmitted. They chose poorly. Status on orbital dominance, Varun demanded, his voice a resonant hiss through the translator. A subordinate, sub-Legate Crix, bowed slightly. Fleets in position, Legate. Satellites neutralized, human communications fragmented. Varun's compound eyes narrowed at the planetary grid. Cities like New York and Shanghai flickered with insurgent signals. Efficiency demanded terror, a swift lesson to break their will. Target non-compliant population centers. Bombardment pattern delta. Minimal ground forces committed. Demonstrate superiority. Crix hesitated, a rare flicker. The Emperor's directive emphasizes resource preservation. Preservation requires submission. Varun cut in, his philosophy unyielding. Humans were chattel, their biomass and minerals imperial due. But this ferocity, it whispered of complications. Execute, let their screams echo. The order rippled out, and from orbit, lances of plasma rained down. Beijing's skyline ignited first, a dome of fire erasing districts in heartbeats. London followed, the Thames boiling under the onslaught. In the chaos of New York's evacuation, Dr. Elias Chen clung to the SUV's door as it barreled through smoke-choked streets. The boy from the bus huddled beside him, silent now, shock glazing his eyes. Elias's mind reeled, not from the jolts or the gunfire pinging off armor, but from what he'd glimpsed back at the facility's perimeter. They'd been too late for full evac. As Maya's team breached the outer labs, Elias had peered through a shattered viewport. A NYPD unit, blue uniforms, hands raised, approached a Carrick squad under white flags, surrendering, begging for terms. Elias had held his breath, a sliver of hope igniting. Maybe dialogue, maybe time to negotiate, to prove humanity's worth beyond conquest. The Carricks didn't pause. Lances hummed, slicing through the officers like wheat, heads vaporized, bodies crumpling in sprays of red, efficient, merciless. No parley, no mercy for the yielding. Elias retched against the wall, the data core slipping from his grip, his belief in science as bridge builder shattered there. In that moment of brutal clarity, These weren't invaders open to reason, they were exterminators. Hacking their tech wasn't just survival, it was turning their blade back on them, and God help what that would make humanity. The SUV swerved around a crater, Maya's voice barking directions. Luca, eyes on 6, they're closing. Elias gripped the seat, the core's weight burning in his pocket. Negotiation was dead. Now it was adapt or die. High above, Sophia's command station shuddered as shockwaves from the strikes rippled through the hull. Holoscreens blazed with feeds, Paris crumbling, Tokyo's harbors boiling, millions gone in the first waves. Casualty counters ticked upward, 10 million, 15, the numbers blurring into abstraction. But not for Sophia. Her daughter's city was next on the grid, red icons pulsing. Reyes's voice cracked over the din. Admiral, ground forces report. Ortiz's team has Chen, but they're pinned. Carracks are glassing everything. Sophia stared at the carnage, her chest tight with the old guilt. Years of deployment stealing time from family. Now this cosmic knife twisting. Strategic necessity screamed retreat. Consolidate, but her daughter? No. Survival first, even if it carved her hollow. Authorize Protocol Omega, she said, the words leaden. Global scorched earth, flood dams, ignite oil fields. Deny the enemy every inch without mercy. Sacrifice territory, civilians, everything to bleed them dry. Relay to all commands. We burn our own ground to salt theirs. Buy time, make them pay. The order cascaded down, a desperate gambit born of annihilation's shadow. As the first day bled into dusk, Earth screamed under the fire, humanity's defiance hardening into something feral, unbreakable. But at what cost? Sophia wondered, alone with the ghosts on her screens, as the counter hit 20 million and climbed. Elias Chen stumbled out of the armored transport into the dim glow of the bunker's access tunnel. The air thick with the hum of emergency generators and the faint ozone tang of overworked electronics. His lab coat was smeared with ash from the surface evacuation, and his glasses fogged briefly against the sudden chill. 2 MPs flanked him, their rifles slung low but ready, as if the real threats weren't the Carracks, but the collapse of everything above. Dr. Chen, this way, one barked, guiding him past sealed blast doors that groaned like weary sentinels. The bunker was a warren of concrete and flickering screens, buried under the Swiss Alps, but it felt more like a tomb than a fortress. Elias's mind raced, fragments of alien wreckage he'd glimpsed during the rush, jagged alloys that defied spectrometry, drones that pulsed with an eerie organic light. The UN Scientific Defense Directorate had pulled him from his Geneva lab 2 days ago, but this was no simulation. They shoved him into a sterile chamber lined with containment fields. Tables groaned under the weight of captured tech. A Carrack's drone, its carapace cracked like chitinous armor, tentacles limp and severed. A plasma rifle that still hummed faintly, as if alive. General Harlan waited there, face etched with the kind of exhaustion that came from staring at defeat maps too long. 48 hours, Doctor. Strip it down. Find the weakness. The Imperium's first wave is carving through Europe like it's paper. We need something to hit back with, or we're done. Elias nodded, gloves already snapping on, but his stomach twisted. He was a physicist, not a weaponizer. Hacking their tech meant dissecting something that thought. That adapted. Understood, he said, voice steady despite the doubt gnawing at him. As the general left, Elias leaned over the drone, tools trembling slightly in his grip. The clock on the wall ticked mercilessly. 48 hours to unravel an empire's edge. Maya Ortiz crouched in the shadow of a shattered overpass, the quarantined zone of old Baltimore stretching out like a graveyard of steel and fire. The air reeked of burning rubber and something sharper, metallic. Carrack's blood, maybe, from the ambushes her team had laid earlier. Her squad was down to 6, Luca at her side, fiddling with a detonator pack, and 4 others scanning the ruins with thermal scopes. The downed dropship loomed half a kilometer out, its hull a blackened scar against the skyline, spilling alien cargo into the streets. Her comms crackled. Admiral Kuznetsova's voice cut through, clipped and unyielding. Ortiz, you have 90 minutes to raid that ship. Intel says it's carrying command nodes. Intact ones could give Chen's team a breakthrough, but the zone's hot. Orbital strike inbound after extraction window closes, no extensions. Get in, get out, or you're ash. Maya's jaw tightened. 90 minutes. Sophia's pragmatism was a blade, sharp, necessary, but it cut close to the bone. Her brother was holed up in New York, one of the last holdouts, and every delay here meant risks there. But this was the job. Special ops, the knife in the dark. Copy that, Admiral, we're moving. Luca glanced at her, his dark eyes sharp under the grime-streaked helmet. She's bombing us out regardless? That's cold, even for her. War's colder, Maya muttered, signaling the advance. They slipped through the debris, boots crunching on glass, hearts pounding in sync with the distant thunder of Karek's patrols. The dropship was a prize, but the zone crawled with survivors, refugees who'd fled the initial landings, now trapped in the crossfire. Maya pushed it down. Mission first, always. Aboard the Karek's command cruiser, suspended in low orbit like a predator's eye, Legate Varun Jex stared at the holographic display, its web of lights flickering with fresh red icons. Losses. 12% of the first drop contingent, shredded not by orbital fire or massed defenses, but by, traps. Crude explosives in sewer lines, civilians with stolen rifles picking off scouts from rooftops. Primitive, yet effective. His mandibles clicked in irritation, the chamber's humid air thick with the scent of recycled oxygen. Report, he demanded, voice a low rasp through the translator implant. His aides, subordinates with iridescent carapaces, shifted uneasily. Human ambushes, Legate, improvised. They adapt faster than anticipated. Resource species, but resilient. Varun's compound eyes narrowed. The Imperium's doctrine was clear. Swift pacification through terror. Break the will, harvest the remnants. But these humans fought like cornered vermin, turning every street into a kill zone. Prestige demanded efficiency. Delay invited scrutiny from the High Conclave. Deploy the hunter-killers, adaptive packs. Target their weak points, hospitals, convoys. Let them see the cost of resistance. No mercy protocols. The order rippled out, a digital venom. On the surface, sleek Karek's drones detached from larger vessels, swarming in coordinated packs. They descended on a refugee convoy snaking out of Philadelphia, lasers slicing through trucks like paper. Screams echoed as survivors scattered, the packs learning, adjusting, prioritizing the young, the wounded to maximize despair. In a besieged hospital in Warsaw, they breached the wards, methodically purging the vulnerable. Varun watched the feeds, satisfaction warring with a flicker of unease. Efficiency, yes, but if the primitives escalated, he dismissed it. The Imperium endured because it crushed such sparks before they ignited. Luca halted the squad at the edge of a collapsed warehouse, his breath ragged. Ahead, through the scope, he spotted them. A ragged group of refugees, maybe 30, huddled in the ruins. Families, mostly, kids clutching makeshift packs, an old man with a bandaged leg. The kill zone's perimeter hummed with Karek sensors, but these people were inching toward a faint evac route Maya's team had scouted earlier. Captain, Luca whispered, urgent, we can't leave them. Hunter-killers are inbound. Sophia's brief said as much. They'll get shredded. Maya's eyes flicked to the group, then to her chronometer. 80 minutes to the dropship, then the bombs. Mission parameters don't include babysitting, Devereaux. We push now. He met her gaze, unflinching. The idealism that had drawn her to him in training now a stubborn fire. They're civilians, our civilians. If we don't escort them out, what's the point of any of this? Delaying 10 minutes, maybe we save a few. Our ammo's light, but we've got frags for cover. The squad shifted, murmurs rippling. Maya felt the weight. Luca's loyalty was her anchor. But his heart bled for the innocent in ways hers had learned to cauterize after her last squad's wipeout. One delay could doom them all, but ignoring this, it chipped at the defiance she clung to. 5 minutes, she growled finally. "Escort and drop, then we hit the ship hard." They moved, a tight knot weaving through the shadows. Luca took point, barking low orders to the refugees as they roused them. "Stay low, follow tight, we're your ticket out." Gunfire cracked, Karek's drones scouting the perimeter. Luca's demo charge took one out in a bloom of plasma, but it cost them. 2 frags expended, ammo dipping critically. A refugee kid tripped, drawing a second drone. Maya dropped it with a burst, but the noise lit up the zone. The group cleared the kill line with seconds to spare, vanishing into a sewer grate toward safety. Luca exhaled, clapping a woman's shoulder. "Go, live." Maya grabbed his arm. "That was 8 minutes, we're exposed now. Move." He nodded, but the cost lingered in his eyes, their edge blunted, just when they needed it sharpest. Deep in the bunker, Elias's hands ached from hours of probing circuits that shifted like living tissue. The drone's core yielded secrets grudgingly, neural command networks woven into a lattice of biosynthetic relays. He isolated a signal thread, his console beeping triumphantly. "There," he murmured, tracing the frequency band, narrow, efficient, piggybacking on electromagnetic pulses the Kareks used for coordination. But as the simulation ran, his face paled. Jamming it would disrupt their hive mind links, blind their drones, cripple the dropships. A game changer. Yet the band overlapped Earth's surviving satellite grid, the fragile orbital relays coordinating UN forces, civilian evacuations. "It'll fry our eyes in the sky," he said to the empty room, then keyed the comm to Harlan. "General, I've got it, but the cost, we'll be fighting blind too." Harlan's response was immediate, weary. "Forward to Admiral Kuznetsova. She'll decide. Clock's at 36 hours. Elias leaned back, rubbing his temples. Weaponizing this felt like cracking open Pandora's code, human science twisted into a blunt instrument. What came after the war? A world where every frequency was suspect, every innovation a potential kill switch. He pushed the thought down, refining the jammer specs. Survival first, regret later. The dropship's ramp yawned like a wound, alien glyphs pulsing faintly under sporadic fire. Maya's squad breached the hull, breaching charges blooming silent and hot. Inside, the air was alien thick, laced with acrid chemicals that burned the throat. Consoles sparked, bodies, Karek's crew, sprawled in twisted heaps from the crash. "Nodes in the command deck, aft," Maya hissed, leading the push. Drones stirred, reactivating with whirs of servos. Luca's shotgun barked, shredding one. Another latched onto Private Reyes, its tentacles coiling. Maya severed it with her blade, blood, human and not, splattering her visor. They reached the core, a crystalline node, intact, humming with data streams. But alarms wailed, reinforcements inbound, and the chronometer screamed 40 minutes to bombs. "Grab it and go," Maya ordered. Luca hefted the case. "It's heavy, needs 2 to carry secure." Then the world shook, Karek's artillery from an orbiting cruiser, pounding the zone. The ship groaned, bulkheads buckling. 2 soldiers, Gupta and Torres, were cut off by a collapsing corridor, pinned under debris. "Captain," Gupta's voice crackled over comms, frantic. "We're trapped, get out." Maya froze, the node's weight in her hands a leaden choice. Her flaw, the one that haunted her since the last mission, losing people. But this node could turn the tide, save thousands, maybe her brother. "Hold position," she said, voice cracking. "Extract's priority, we're leaving you cover." "No, Captain, please." Torres's plea cut short in static, bombardment drowning it out. She turned away, squad in tow, the node's glow mocking her as they sprinted into the ruins. Explosions chased them. The orbital strike's prelude, 2 left behind, the cost of defiance, etched in her gut like shrapnel. Sofia Kuznetsova stood on the bridge of the UN Orbital Command, the void outside a tapestry of debris and dying lights. Earth's curve below was marred by firestorms, the counter on her main screen inexorably climbing, 28 million now. Elias's report scrolled in, the jamming pulse. Viable, but it would sever all comms, satellites dark, ground forces isolated, Her daughter's city, Moscow's outskirts, would go silent just as Karek's siege breakers closed the noose. No word from Sofia Kuznetsova's fingers hovered over the authorization panel. The bridges hum a distant roar in her ears. The counter ticked to 28,100,000. Lives, not numbers, though she'd trained herself to think of them that way. Elias's warning blinked red. Total blackout. No sats, no relays, no ground chatter for hours, maybe days. Moscow's grid was flickering already. Karek's siege engines grinding closer to the outer districts, where her daughter Anya coordinated refugee evacuations. No word from her in 12 hours. Just static and silence. "Admiral," Commander Hale said from her station, voice tight, "if we pulse now, we're blind. Every unit on the planet goes dark," Sophia finished, her accent clipping the words like shrapnel. She met his eyes, saw the flicker of doubt there, the same gnawing at her gut. Hale had a son in Berlin. Half the bridge crew had family pinned under the invasion. But hesitation had already cost them orbit's high ground. The Karek's fleet loomed in the outer lanes, their command nodes pulsing like veins, coordinating the ground slaughter with surgical precision. Elias's hack was their one shot to sever that. She slammed the panel. "Initiate global jamming, full spectrum, now." Alarms wailed as the pulse fired, a silent wave rippling from the remaining UN satellites. Below, Earth's night side lit up in erratic bursts, power grids failing, comm towers sparking out. Sophia gripped the console, watching Moscow's signal die first, a black void swallowing the city's outline. The counter froze at 28,412,000. No more updates, just the void, and the Karek's ships hanging like judgment in the black. Maya Ortiz braced against the helo's shuddering frame, the captured Karek's node strapped to the deck like a squirming beast under netting. Her team, Luca at the stick, 2 techs in the back, had snatched it from a forward outpost in the French countryside, a miracle born of smoke and suppressed fire. The node's faint hum vibrated through her boots, its alien glyphs flickering under the red cabin lights. Elias needed this. With it, they could crack the invaders' encryption, turn their drones against them. "ETA to exfil point 5 mics, Luca called over the rotor thump, his voice steady despite the sweat beading on his brow. He was good like that, always the anchor, even with a demo charge humming in his pack. Maya nodded, checking her rifle's mag. Outside, the landscape blurred. Ruined vineyards, smoldering hamlets where Karek's drop pods had punched down like meteor fists. The jamming pulse hit without warning. The helo bucked, instruments going haywire, altimeter spinning wild, nav screen fracturing into static. "Shit, EMP cascade," one tech yelled, clawing at his harness. Luca wrestled the cyclic, swearing in French. "No, it's the pulse, comms dead. We're flying blind." The ground rushed up, a jagged hillock swallowing the horizon. Maya shouted orders, but the crash came fast. Metal shrieking, the world inverting in a storm of dirt and sparks. She blacked out to the sound of Luca's curse, the node's hum the last thing echoing in her skull. When she came to, pain lanced her ribs, tasting of blood and fuel. The helo lay crumpled in a wheat field, rotors bent like broken wings. Luca was already up, hauling the techs free, his face smeared with mud and resolve. The node was intact, barely, its casing cracked but pulsing. "Everyone alive?" Maya rasped, forcing herself vertical. Her left arm hung wrong, but adrenaline shoved the ache aside. Luca nodded grimly. "Techs are banged up, but walking. Nav's fried. We're 60 clicks from the rally point, minimum. On foot, with that thing weighing us down." Maya eyed the horizon. Smoke plumes rising from distant villages, the faint whine of Karek's patrols cutting the air. No bird for extraction now. Just them, the node, and a trek through hell. "Double time it. Luca, rig the wreck to blow if they sniff us. We deliver this or we die carrying it." He slung the node's harness over his shoulder without complaint, but his eyes lingered on the smoke, civilian zones, not just battlefields. Maya pushed the thought down. Mission first, always. Aboard the Karek's command cruiser, Vexar Keth, Legate Varun Jex stood motionless as the offensive feeds stuttered and died. His frontline legions, 10 cohorts of armored reavers, froze mid-assault on the European theater, their synaptic links severed in a cascade of interference. Hollow displays flickered, showing human positions scattering into the chaos, but his own forces locked in place, vulnerable. Varun's mandibles clicked softly, a habit from calmer campaigns. This was no primitive rabble. The humans had struck at the Imperium's nerve core, efficient, bold. His aides shifted uneasily in the dim command bulb, their chitinous forms casting shadows on the bulkheads. "Report," he rasped, voice like grinding stone through the translator implant. "Imperator, the jamming permeates all frequencies. Ground units are isolated, no uplink to orbital command." The sub-legionary bowed low. Casualties mounting from human counterfire. Varun's compound eyes narrowed on the tactical overlay. The human's desperation was predictable, but this, a self-inflicted wound, blinding their own eyes to buy time. It reeked of ingenuity, the kind that turned resources into weapons. He could not allow it to fester. "Deploy the autonomous reserves," he ordered. "Full drone swarms, no signature filters. Let them reap without restraint. Civilian, combatant, it matters not. Purge the interference at its source." The sub-legionary hesitated a fraction. "Legate without filters, obey." Varun's tone brooked no fracture. The drones would operate on base imperatives, eliminate resistance, harvest biomass. No mercy protocols. If the humans wished chaos, he would drown them in it. Prestige demanded swift ends. This world would break, or it would burn. As the launch bays hissed open, Varun turned back to the void. The human homeworld spun below, scarred but defiant. For the first time, a shadow of doubt crept into his calculations. How deep did their ferocity run? In the bowels of the UN Forward Lab, buried under the Swiss Alps, Dr. Elias Chen wiped sweat from his brow, the air thick with ozone and the nodes escalating whine. The captured device squatted on the workbench, its interfaces pulsing erratically since the jamming hit. Data streams had been flowing, encryption keys, drone protocols, but now alarms blared from its core, self-destruct sequence initiating. 30 minutes to meltdown, and the standard dump was too slow. Elias's hands shook as he prepped the neural jack, a makeshift rig of human tech grafted to Karek's ports. His team hovered up, faces pale under the emergency lights. "Doc, you sure?" Last guy who linked direct fried his synapses. "I'm sure," Elias lied, the words bitter. He was no soldier, just a physicist who'd built fusion drives before the war, but this node held the keys to their survival, or escalation. Hacking it clean meant militarizing every lab on Earth, turning science into a weapon that wouldn't sleep after victory. His flaw, always, seeing the long shadow of now. He slotted the jack into his temple, the world exploding into alien code. Pain lanced like fire through his nerves, Karek's algorithms clawing at his thoughts, imperial hierarchies, extermination logics, the cold calculus of conquest. He fought for the data dump, pulling control codes for their orbital defenses, drone overrides. Visions flashed, human cities glassed. His own family in Shanghai reduced to ash if they failed. The node's whine peaked, heat blooming under his skin. Elias gasped, yanking the link as blackness edged his vision. Partial codes, enough? He collapsed to the deck, colleagues rushing in, but his mind reeled with the horror. They'd glimpsed the Karek's mind, and it stared back, hungry. Maya's boots crunched over shattered glass as the team pushed through the ruined outskirts of a nameless town, the node a dead weight between Luca and her. Dusk bled into the sky, the jamming silence oppressive. No radio chatter, no drone hums, just the wind carrying distant screams. Her arm throbbed, but she ignored it, eyes scanning for threats. They'd covered 20 clicks, scavenging water from a gutted farm, but the techs were fading, one limping from the crash. Luca froze ahead. "Rifle up. Contact, small unit, Karek's recon, 2 blocks over." Maya dropped to a knee, peering through her scope. The aliens, sleek insectoid scouts in powered exos, prowled a collapsed school, their sensors sweeping, but not for them. A faint cry echoed. Children huddled in a basement shelter, doors barricaded with debris. Displaced kids, maybe 24, their guardians' bodies strewn from an earlier raid. "They're hunting soft targets," Maya whispered. We skirt wide. Node's priority." Luca's jaw tightened, his dark eyes flashing. "Maya, those are kids. We can't just—" "Mission, Luca. Elias needs this data yesterday. One detour and we're all dead." Her voice cracked, haunted by the squad she'd lost in Mexico. Good people, vaporized for a failed extract. She wouldn't repeat it, not even for this. He slung the node to a tech, breaking formation without a word. "Cover me. I'm not leaving them to be harvested." Maya cursed under her breath, signaling the others to hold. Luca vanished into the shadows, a ghost with charges and grit. Gunfire popped, suppressed bursts, then alien shrieks. He emerged minutes later, herding wide-eyed children, their faces streaked with dirt and terror. 3 Carracks down, but Luca's arm bled from a graze. "You idiot!" Maya hissed as he rejoined, the kids trailing in a ragged line. "That rift could get us killed." "Better than becoming monsters," he shot back, voice raw. "We're fighting for something, Maya, not just survival." The words stung, mirroring her own doubts. But the whine of incoming drones, autonomous, unfiltered, cut the argument short. They ran, children in tow, the weight of choices heavier than the node. Back on the orbital bridge, Sophia's world narrowed to the mutiny brewing in her own ranks. The pulse had bought them minutes of Carrack's disarray, but the cost was immediate. Reports filtering in via emergency couriers, ground units fracturing without orders. Hale stormed her ready room, flanked by 2 lieutenants, faces twisted in accusation. "You cut Moscow off," Hale snarled, slamming a tablet down, grainy footage of siege breakers rolling unopposed. "Anya's city, your own daughter, Admiral, and ours. Berlin's dark, no aid incoming. Was it worth it?" Sophia rose slowly, the bulkhead cold against her back. Guilt clawed her, Anya, stubborn like her father, refusing evacuation. But she'd made the call for the billions, not the one. "It buys us time to hit back. Elias's team has a node. If they crack it, lies to sleep at night," a lieutenant spat. "My brother's in Paris. You sacrificed family for a gamble." The room tensed, hands twitching toward sidearms. Sophia met their eyes, voice steel. "Mutiny gets us all killed. Stand down, or I'll space you myself." Her hand rested on her pistol, heart. The room hung in brittle silence, the air thick with recycled oxygen and the faint tang of sweat. Sophia's fingers curled around the grip of her sidearm, the cold metal a grounding weight against her palm. Her heart hammered not from fear, but from the raw calculus of command, lives balanced against the void. The officers before her, a mix of fleet captains and liaison reps from fractured alliances, froze. One, a wiry colonel from the Eurasian bloc, let his hand drop first, eyes flicking to the bulkhead as if the stars beyond might swallow them all. "Admiral," he muttered, voice cracking like thin ice, "we're not mutinying, we're asking, begging for sense. Those counteroffensives are bleeding us dry. Our capitals are glassed, and you're throwing ships at shadows." Sophia's gaze didn't waver. She could see the ghosts in their faces, the orbital stations they'd lost, the families vaporized in the first waves. Her own daughter, trapped in the ruins of Moscow, flickered in her mind like a faulty holoscreen. But hesitation now was death for billions. "Sense is what keeps us fighting," she said, low and even. "Halt the ops, and the Carracks roll over what's left. You want protection for your precious seats of power? Earn it, or step aside." The colonel swallowed, glancing at the others. A murmur rippled. But no one moved. Sophia holstered her pistol with deliberate slowness, the click echoing. "Dismissed. Get back to your posts. We've got an invasion to break." They filed out, shoulders slumped, leaving her alone with the hum of the command deck. She sank into her chair, pulling up the tactical overlay. Red icons swarmed Earth's orbit like locusts, Carrack's carriers disgorging landing waves. Her daughter's last ping had come from a bunker under the Kremlin. Faint, desperate. Sophia's jaw tightened. Personal grief was a luxury she couldn't afford. not when the whole damn species teetered. Miles below, in the shattered sprawl of what used to be the European theater, Captain Maya Ortiz crouched in the gutted shell of a transport van, her breath ragged against the dust-choked air. The children's wide eyes stared up at her from the shadows. A dozen kids no older than 10 scavenged from the rubble after the last Carrick's sweep. Luca knelt beside her, his demo kit slung low, face streaked with grime and something darker. Regret, maybe, for the civilians they'd already buried. "We can't take them all," Maya said, voice a whip-crack whisper. The bunker was 10 clicks north, through contested ruins crawling with harvester drones. Elias huddled nearby, fiddling with a salvaged alien comms pad, his glasses fogged from the heat. "Luca, you lead them out. Back roads, low profile. Get them to the evac relay at the old mill." Luca's eyes narrowed, his French accent thickening under stress. "And you? Marching blind with the egghead? Maya, that's suicide. We stick together." "No." She grabbed his arm, fingers digging in. The weight of her last squad's ghosts pressed on her chest. The ones she'd lost to a bad call in the Rockies. Not again. Not these kids, not her team. Mission first. Elias needs backup to crack that signal. If we hijack even one lander, it buys us time. You get them safe, then link up. He searched her face, the camaraderie forged in foxholes cracking under the strain. Luca was the idealist, the one who patched wounds and shared rations with strays. But he nodded, jaw set. "Fine. But if you're not at the bunker in 2 hours, I'm coming back guns blazing." Maya squeezed his shoulder, a ghost of a smile. "Don't get soft on me, Sergeant." She turned to Elias. "You ready?" The physicist nodded, pocketing the pad. "As I'll ever be. Let's move." Luca herded the kids into a tight line, their small hands clutching packs too big for them. Whimpers echoed as they slipped into the alley, vanishing into the fog of smoke and fallout. Maya watched until they were gone, then shouldered her rifle. The march north would be hell. Exposed ridges, drone patrols, but the bunker held the gear to turn Elias's theories into weapons. She waved him forward and they broke into a brutal jog, boots pounding cracked asphalt. Half a click in, Elias's pad chirped, a low, insistent buzz that cut through the distant thunder of orbital strikes. They dropped behind a toppled tram, Maya scanning the skyline for threats. "What have you got?" He hunched over the screen, fingers flying across the alien glyphs. "Intercepted burst, human origin, encrypted." "Wait." His face paled. "It's from Geneva. Multiple governments, U.S. remnants, EU Council, even Beijing's war room. They're spinning up surrender channels, secret ones, offering regional autonomy if the Carricks spare their cores." Maya's gut twisted. Surrender? After the glassings, the harvests? Autonomy under those bastards? They'd be pets in a cage. She pictured her brother in New York, hunkered in his apartment amid the chaos. If the U.S. folded? No. She shook it off. "Can you jam it?" Elias shook his head. "Not without the bunker rig, but this changes everything. Fractured alliance means no coordinated push." "Means we fight harder," Maya growled. They pushed on, the transmission's shadow lengthening their strides into desperation. Luca moved like a shadow through the debris-choked streets, the kids trailing in a ragged chain. The air stank of cordite and rot, every corner a potential kill zone. His mind raced. Maya's call was right, tactical, but it gnawed at him. Leaving her exposed felt like betrayal, even if it was orders. One girl, maybe 8, stumbled, and he caught her arm gently. "Easy, petite, we're almost clear." The ruined crossroads loomed ahead, a blasted intersection ringed by skeletal buildings. Luca signaled halt, peering through his scope. Figures moved, human by the gear. Militia, maybe 20 strong, ragged uniforms patched with civvy cloth. At their center, a burly leader with a scarred face barked orders, positioning the kids' path right into a choke point. Tripwires glinted in the dust, bait for an ambush on whatever Carrick's patrol wandered by. Luca's blood boiled, using children as lures. His finger tightened on the trigger. "Stay down," he hissed to the group, then rose, rifle up. "Hey, you lot, back off the kids." The militia spun, weapons snapping to bear. The leader sneered, stepping forward. "Who the hell are you, UN lapdog? These brats are ours now. Good bait for the bugs." Luca's vision tunneled. Idealism be damned. This was the line. He fired first, a burst into the dirt at their feet. "Wrong answer. Let them go or I paint this crossroads red." Chaos erupted. The militia charged, shouting curses. But Luca was faster, his engineer's eye picking weak points. He flanked left, lobbing a flashbang that blinded half a dozen. Shots whined past as he returned fire, dropping 2 before they could regroup. The leader lunged, knife out, but Luca sidestepped, cracking his rifle butt into the man's jaw. Bone crunched. The leader crumpled. The rest broke, scattering into the ruins. Luca stood panting, blood on his knuckles, the kids frozen behind cover. He waved them forward. "Run. Now." No time for mercy. The gunfire would draw drones. He scooped up the youngest, legs pumping as they fled the crossroads, the cost of his defiance echoing in the screams, fading behind. Aboard the UN's battered command carrier, Sophia paced the strategy holotable, the glow casting harsh shadows on her lined face. The political feed crackled to life, a coalition of leaders patched in from bunkers across the globe. Presidents, premiers, their faces gaunt under emergency lights. The Eurasian colonel flanked her virtually, his earlier doubt now a spearhead for their demands. "Admiral Kuznetsova," the U.S. acting president began, voice strained, "your counteroffensives are reckless. Our capitals, Washington, London, Delhi, their priority. Pull back the fleets, fortify the cores." Sophia's laugh was bitter, short. "Fortify? While the Kariks carve up the rest? No, we hit them where it hurts. Disrupt the landings, starve the orbitals." A European chancellor leaned in, eyes hard. "At what cost? Our people are dying for your gambles. Cease the risks, or we'll withhold support." The threat hung, laced with the surrender chatter Elias had flagged. Sophia's hand clenched. Her daughter's face flashed, trapped, alone. But this was bigger. "Support? You're the ones whispering to the enemy, offering scraps for thrones. I know about the channels. Open them wide, and I'll broadcast every word. Let the world see who folds first." Gasps rippled through the feed. The chancellor blanched. "You wouldn't try me." Sophia killed the link, the table plunging into blue silence. Her chest ached, the weight of isolation pressing, but refusal was her defiance. Earned in the fires of old wars, she turned to her XO. Double the strikes, no mercy. Deep in the march, Elias stumbled over a root, the alien pad clutched like a lifeline. Maya hauled him up, her arm burning from the strain. They'd covered 6 clicks, dodging 2 drone sweeps by sheer luck and low crawls. Now, in the lee of a collapsed overpass, he activated the decoder again, glyphs swirling into coherence. "Got it," Elias breathed, sweat beading on his brow. His motive was clear: salvage humanity's future through science, not just survival. But the flaw gnawed. Every hack risked unleashing worse. The control language, it's modular, like code blocks. I can spoof it, hijack a full landing wave, turn their dropships against the carrier, crash them right into the heart. Maya's eyes lit. One wave? That's hundreds of troops. Tons of ordnance. Cripple the command hub. He nodded, but doubt flickered. If it works, but the feedback, it could fry our systems, or worse, alert them to our hacks. Moral weight settled. He'd built tools for peace once. Now this was weaponizing the abyss. "Do it," she said. "We get to the bunker, you rig it. It's our shot." The transmission from Varun's flagship pierced Earth's nets like a venomous thorn, broadcasting across every frequency. In the dim command nexus of the Karik's dreadnought, Legate Varun Jex stood rigid, his chitinous armor humming faintly under the strain of Imperial feeds. The humans' ferocity had been unexpected. Primitive, yes, but their ingenuity clawed at his strategies, forcing adaptations that bruised his prestige. The footage played: a ruined city square, humans in ragged uniforms dragging suspects, collaborators by their markings, before a makeshift tribunal. Executions followed, brutal and public, plasma rifles flashing in the dust, screams cut short, bodies slumped. Varun's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. "Amplify this," he ordered his aides, voice a resonant grind. "Show the Imperium, these vermin devour their own. No resource value in chaos. Upgrade to extermination protocol. Purge the infestation." His philosophy held, terror efficient, conquest swift. But the human broadcasts of their own atrocities? It justified escalation, yes, but a whisper of unease stirred. Their defiance wasn't breaking, it was hardening. Maya gripped the edge of the battered UN transport's console, her knuckles whitening against the scarred plasteel. The encrypted feed from New York flickered on the secondary screen. Her brother, Thomas, huddled in some makeshift shelter amid the ruins of Brooklyn, his face gaunt but alive. Carrick's harvesters were closing in, their scything beams carving through the skyline like reaper blades. The urge clawed at her gut, a raw animal pull to veer off course, to punch the throttle and burn south instead of east. But she crushed it down, jaw locked, eyes fixed on the horizon where the hijack site waited. One life against the war. Tomas would understand. He had to. "Elias," she said, voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. "We're not stopping. The crater's 10 clicks out. You ready to crack that node?" Dr. Elias Chen, crammed beside her in the jump seat, wiped sweat from his brow with a grimy sleeve. His toolkit rattled in his lap, jury-rigged cables spilling like veins. "As ready as I can be without a lab and a decade of prep. If we sync the carrier's nav arrays to the command node, it should cascade, redirect the whole wave into each other. But Maya, if this backfires, it won't." She didn't look at him, couldn't afford the doubt in his eyes. Elias was the moral anchor, the one who questioned every hack, every repurposed alien horror they turned against its makers. But right now she needed his hands, not his conscience. "Focus on the code. We've got one shot." Her comms crackled, Luca's voice tight and urgent over the encrypted channel. "Captain, we're picking up heat signatures in Thomas's sector. Carrick's ground pounders, looks like a harvest team. I can reroute, get there in 20... No." The word sliced out sharper than she intended. Luca's loyalty was a lifeline, his idealism the glue holding her team together when the world fractured, but sending him now would splinter them all. "Luca, ignore that. Take your squad to the fallback perimeter, defend the town relay station, hold it until we signal." Silence stretched, broken only by the transport's engines whining against the wind. "Maya, that's your brother. We can..." "That's an order, Sergeant." Her voice cracked on the last word, but she forced steel back in. "The hijack goes forward, or we're all fragments by dawn. Protect the civilians there. That's how you help Thomas." Another beat of static, then softer. "Understood, Captain, for the line." The channel went dead, and Maya slammed her fist into the console, the pain grounding her. Luca would do it, he always did. But the cost, God, the cost, high above. In the shadowed nerve center of the UN Orbital Command, Admiral Sofia Kuznetsova stared at the holographic projection of Earth's battered sphere. Red icons swarmed the hijack corridor like angry wasps. Carrick's troop carriers fat with soldiers and primed for drop. Her remaining assets blinked faintly, a handful of railgun platforms, drone swarms depleted to skeletons, the last kinetic interceptors. Committing them meant stripping the other fronts bare. Africa's flanks exposed, Asia's cities open to unchallenged orbital strikes. But the corridor was the throat. Cut it, and the invasion choked. "Admiral," her XO murmured, "projections show 80% attrition on the wave if we focus fire. But the fallout..." Sophia's gaze drifted to the personal feed on her wristpad, her daughter, Anya, in the besieged husk of Moscow. Smoke choked the streets, Carrick's walkers prowled the edges. One call, one pull of strings, and she could divert a shuttle, but strings snapped in war. "Commit everything," she said, voice like grinding gravel. "All platforms to the corridor, burn the bastards out of the sky." The XO hesitated, then nodded. Alarms wailed as the order cascaded through the net. Sophia watched the icons flare, rails spitting tungsten death, interceptors blooming into fireballs that dragged carriers down. Her chest tightened, not for the strategy but for Anya's face in the feed, oblivious to the gamble. Survival first. Always. But grief gnawed anyway, a personal siege she couldn't bombard away. Luca's squad crested the ridge overlooking the town, the transport skidding to a halt in a ditch scarred by plasma burns. The air stank of ozone and charred flesh. Karek's harvest in full swing. Below, the main square was a slaughter pen. Locals herded into shimmering containment fields, their screams muffled as the aliens' bio-reapers began the cull. 8-foot Karek's enforcers, chitin-armored and relentless, herded the survivors with shock prods, their mandibles clicking in what passed for efficiency. Luca's stomach twisted. He'd seen refugees before, but this was erasure. "Contact," he hissed into his comm, signaling the squad to fan out. 5 of them, plus a ragged dozen locals who'd grabbed hunting rifles and farm tools. No heavy weapons, just his demo kit and whatever ingenuity they could scrape. Karek's column, 2 squads, Reaper Unit Central. They're prepping evac. Won't be long before they glass the rest. A local fighter, an older man with a bloodied bandana, crouched beside him. "My family's down there. We fight." Luca nodded, mind racing. The town's layout burned in his head. Narrow streets funneled like a killbox. The old mill with its powder stores. Improvised, yeah, but humans excelled at desperate. "We don't charge. We bleed them. Set charges on the main drag. Collapse it when they push. Buy time for the evac tunnel under the church." His team moved like shadows, wiring C4 analogs to lampposts and sewer grates, the locals covering with potshots that pinged off Karek's shields. Luca's hands shook as he packed the final charge, a daisy chain of scavenged alien power cells. Maya's brother, Tomas Ortiz from the feeds, was in that church basement coordinating the holdouts. For her, for all of them. But the Karek's were advancing, their column rumbling forward, treads pulverizing cobblestones. "Ready," one of his engineers whispered. Luca glanced at the square, a woman clutching a child, the Reaper's beam igniting her scream into silence. Idealism be damned. This was the line. "Lighted up on my mark." Maya and Elias ditched the transport a click from the crater's rim, bellies to the mud as Karek's patrols droned overhead. The staging site yawned below, a gouged earth wound ringed by anti-air spines, the captured command node pulsing at its heart like a stolen heart. Troop carriers hovered in formation, loading bays yawning for the drop. 2 guards on the node, Maya murmured, sighting through her scope. Her pulse thrummed, the old ghosts whispering her last squad, vaporized in a failed breach. "Not again. You plug in, I cover." Elias swallowed, fingers dancing over his portable rig. "The node's encrypted, but I've got a skeleton key from the last hack. If I jack it into the carrier net..." He trailed off, the implication hanging. Hundreds of thousands of Karek's funneled into doom. They slithered down the slope, Maya's suppressed rifle barking twice, guards crumpling without a sound. Elias dove for the node, cables snaking from his pack to its ports. Sparks flew, code scrolled on his monocle display. Syncing, nav arrays online, redirecting vectors, collision protocols engaged. Maya's world narrowed to the perimeter, patrols circling closer, the hum of engines swelling. A carrier lurched, then another, their formations twisting like a knot tightening. Alarms wailed across the crater, Karek's scrambling but too late. The first collision bloomed in the sky. A carrier shearing into its neighbor, debris raining like judgment. "It's chaining," Elias breathed, yanking his cables free. "They're turning on each other, self-destructs firing." Maya hauled him up. "Run." Aboard the Imperial flagship Vexar, Legate Varun Jex gripped the command dais, his compound eyes narrowing at the unfolding catastrophe. The human hijack, impossible, yet there it bloomed. His formations inverting, carriers plowing into each other in a symphony of ruin. Billions in resources, 1,000,000 elite troops, unraveling because primitives had dared touch the network. "Sever the links," he snarled, mandibles flaring. His bridge crew clawed at consoles, but the corruption spread like venom. The Vexar shuddered, proximity alerts screaming as a carrier veered toward them. Save the ship or salvage the ground wave? The choice carved into him. Prestige demanded the fleet, but abandonment meant disgrace. Emergency purge, Varun commanded, voice a whipcrack. Isolate the Vexar, let the wave burn. The bridge fell silent as the links severed. Below, the sky ignited, carriers crumpling into fireballs, troops jettisoned into void or earth. Varun's unease from the broadcasts deepened. These humans didn't break, they metastasized. The skies shattered over 3 continents. Wreckage plummeted like vengeful meteors, twisted hulls slamming into Karek's entrenchments, firestorms erasing forward bases from Europe to the Pacific Rim. In the hijack corridor, the devastation was biblical. Craters blooming where carriers struck, shockwaves flattening forests and flooding deltas. Earth bled, cities pulverized under the weight of alien steel. But the Kareks paid steeper. Entrenched units vaporized, harvest teams crushed mid-reap. 1 million invaders promised as conquerors returned in fragments, chitin shards and frozen corpses, raining on the soil they'd come to claim. Luca's world was fire and stone. The Kareks column surged into the main street, enforcers shrugging off rifle fire, reapers herding the last locals toward their doom. Tomas Ortiz's voice crackled over the local net. Tunnels clear, 50 survivors moving. Detonate now, Luca roared, thumbing the trigger. The charges erupted in sequence, sewer grates vomiting flame, buildings folding like cards. The street collapsed in a thunderous roar, tons of rubble burying the column's vanguard. Enforcers howled, limbs crushed. The Reaper unit imploded under a falling facade. But the rear guard adapted. A plasma volley lancing through the dust. It caught Luca mid-leap, searing his side, ribs cracking like dry wood. He hit the ground rolling, vision blurring red. Pain bloomed, hot and absolute, but he crawled forward, dragging the backup detonator. One more charge, the bridge over the square to seal the survivors' escape. Luca, a squadmate's shout, drowned in gunfire. He armed it, fingers slick with blood, and hit send. The bridge buckled, slamming down on the pursuing Kareks, buying the tunnel precious seconds. Tomas and the core group burst free on the far side, vanishing into the woods. Luca slumped against a wall, breath ragged, the world fading to echoes. Maya would make it count. For her brother, for them all. His eyes closed as the darkness took hold, the town's last stand etched in his final breath. Maya watched the skies burn from the transport's viewport. Elias slumped beside her, rig smoldering. The chain reaction had worked too well. Reports flooded in, continents scarred, but Karek's legions shattered. Yet victory tasted like ash. Luca's channel had gone silent. The town relay dark. Her brother alive, the fragment said, but Maya gripped the transport's harness as it shuddered through the upper atmosphere. The viewport framing a world on fire. Orbital debris streaked like dying stars, and below, the scars of the chain reaction glowed, vast craters where Karek's landing zones had been, cities spared but choked in smoke. Elias slumped beside her, his rig's cooling vents hissing faintly, the acrid tang of overheated circuits filling the cabin. The backdoor hack had rippled out, frying their ground forces' neural links, turning coordinated assaults into chaos. Reports crackled over the comms, legions shattered, but at what price? Luca's channel had gone silent hours ago, the relay from the forward town dark, her brother alive, the fragments said, but the words felt hollow, like echoes in a gutted bunker. Elias stirred, rubbing his temples, his eyes bloodshot from staring into code streams that no human mind was built for. He glanced at Maya, then away, toward the console flickering with incoming data. "It's not over," he muttered, voice raw. "The back door, it's deeper than we thought." She turned, the weight of her gear pulling at her shoulders. "Deeper? How? We bought time. That's something." He shook his head, pulling up a holographic overlay on his wrist unit. Lines of alien script twisted like veins across the display, mapping the Karek's network. "This isn't just their invasion grid. It's tied to the whole Imperium, supply chains, colonial outposts, even their core worlds. Full activation. We could corrupt it all. Push a virus through the tether, collapse their infrastructure from the inside. Billions, Maya. Not just soldiers, civilians, hatchlings, everything. But if even a fragment survives, if they trace it back... His voice trailed off, the hologram pulsing with simulated cascades. Empires unraveling in digital fire. Maya's jaw tightened. She'd seen enough death up close, felt the recoil of weapons that didn't discriminate. And if we don't, they regroup, come back harder. We've got one shot to end this. Elias met her gaze, his usual calm fractured by doubt. Ending it like that, we'd be the ones shattering worlds. Vengeance that never stops. Is that who we are now? The transport banked toward a UN command hub in the Rockies, the conversation hanging unfinished as the pilot called for descent. Admiral Sofia Kuznetsova stood on the bridge of the orbital station Vanguard, her hands clasped behind her back, staring at the tactical holomap. Earth's surface was a patchwork of red alerts, besieged cities holding by threads, Carix vectors probing for weaknesses. Her fleet had taken hits, railguns silent after the backdoor's pulse scrambled targeting arrays, but the real war pulsed in the quiet channels now, the ones that carried personal ghosts. A comm officer approached, face pale. Admiral, confirmation from New Mumbai sector. It's your daughter. Sophia didn't turn. The words landed like shrapnel embedding deep. Elena, trapped in the Undercity when the first wave hit. Her last message a garbled plea for extraction that Sophia had deferred for the greater push. Strategic necessity, she'd told herself. Now the report scrolled across her private feed. Collapsed hab block. No survivors. Grief hit not as a wave, but a cold vice, squeezing her chest until breath came shallow. She nodded once, dismissing the officer. Alone in the dim light, Sophia leaned against the console, the hum of life support the only sound. Elena's face flickered in her mind, stubborn eyes the same fire that had driven Sophia through decades of command. Gone. For what? A war that might still claim everything. Her fingers hovered over the secure line to Elias. The backdoor code sat in buffers, a weapon sharper than any lance. Full deployment would gut the Carix at their roots, ensure no reprisal fleets ever launched. No more daughters lost to imperial hunger. Sophia's voice, when she spoke into the comm, was steel wrapped in sorrow. Dr. Chen, prepare for authorization. We make sure they never touch another world. In the dim medbay of the evac shuttle, Maya knelt beside the cot where her brother Alex lay bandaged and pale. The surgeons had pulled him from the New York ruins. Shrapnel wounds, dehydration, but alive. His eyes fluttered open as she squeezed his hand, the sterile scent of antiseptics mixing with the faint ozone from the shuttle's drives. Maya? His voice was a rasp, but the relief in it cracked something in her. Yeah, kid, I'm here. She forced a smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. The comms had confirmed it en route. Luca, caught in the backlash of a rigged demo charge when the Carixnet failed. No body recovered, just a final burst transmission, his voice calm amid the static. Holding the line, tell her, keep fighting smart. Alex shifted, wincing. The skies, they lit up, thought it was over. She nodded, throat tight. It's not. But we hurt them. Lies, half-truths. Every victory, the ambushes, the hacks, the brutal traps, had carved away at her team. Luca, with his quiet jokes over rations, his hands steady on the detonators even when doubt gnawed at him. Gone because she pushed for the edge, because hesitation meant death for more like Alex. You look like hell, he said softly, searching her face. What now? Maya stood, the weight of her rifle a familiar anchor. We rebuild, but first we finish it. Outside, the shuttle docked with the hub, but the truth settled like fallout. Protection came at pieces of souls, hers included. She'd sworn no more losses, yet here they were, hollowed out. Aboard the Carix flagship Dread Sovereign, Legate Varun Jex paced the command dais, his chitinous armor clicking against the deck. The invasion's momentum had shattered. Ground legions unresponsive, orbital tethers severed by some human sabotage. His aides hovered, mandibles twitching with unease. But Varun's mind was a blade, honed on imperial doctrine. Break the primitives swiftly, harvest the world. Status on the lance, he demanded, voice a low hiss through his translator implant. The weapons master bowed. Charged, Legate, the kinetic core is stable. Firing solution locked on their primary continent. Maximum yield for dominance display. Varun's compound eyes narrowed at the viewport. Earth a blue marble veined with fire. Humans had proven resilient, not the vermin he'd expected, but insects with stings that drew blood. This would end it. A planet cracker, not to destroy wholesale, but to cow them into submission. The Lance's guidance ran through the central network, efficient, unassailable. Initiate sequence, he ordered. Alarms hummed as the massive rail aligned, the core humming with relativistic fury. One strike and the Imperium's prestige held. Vengeance for the fallen waves would come later, in chains and labor camps. Sophia's command center thrummed with urgency, screens alive with intercepted signals. Elias's face filled her main display, patched from the surface hub, his expression a mask of reluctance. Admiral, full activation? Partial, she cut in, voice unyielding. Grief had forged resolve. Elena's death demanded finality without apocalypse. Target their command nexus. The lance, it's tethered. Redirect it. Decapitate the head. Spare the body. Elias hesitated, fingers flying over keys. Risky. If it backfires, execute. Sophia watched the feeds. The alien weapon powering up, a spear of doom aimed at Earth's heart. Her fleet maneuvered into support positions, picket ships buying seconds. In the hub's server farm, Elias initiated the pulse. Code slithered through the back door, a surgical worm burrowing into the Lance's arrays. Guidance systems flickered, alien overrides crumbling under human ingenuity. He held his breath as the trajectory shifted, the holomap showing the arc bend toward the dread sovereign's coordinates. Varun felt the tremor first, a subtle warp in the Lance's alignment feeds. "What is this?" he snarled, slamming a claw on the console. Alarms wailed as the weapons master scrambled. "Override! Secure the—" The strike came without mercy. The kinetic lance, a god's hammer, forged for conquest, tore from its cradle and lanced back at its masters. It punched through the flagship's hull like paper, relativistic mass unraveling armor, and decks in a bloom of plasma. Varun had a heartbeat to register the betrayal, the human's audacity, before the core detonated inside, shearing the command structure in white-hot annihilation. Shrapnel bloomed into space, the invasion's nerve center erased. Sophia exhaled as the confirmations rolled in. Carrick's remnants scattering, no coordinated counter. The immediate threat gutted. But Elias's voice broke through, strained. "It's done. Partial hold. I've isolated the rest of the code, locking it down." She frowned. "Doctor, we may need—" "No." His eyes, weary and fierce, met the camera. "This power, it ends wars but starts others in our own heads. Peacetime with empire killers, we'd become them." The line went dark, the back door's remnants encrypted beyond casual reach, buried in layers only he could navigate. Months later, in the post-war rubble of what had been Geneva's outskirts, Maya walked the memorial path. The air still carried the faint char of fires long quenched, weeds pushing through cracked ferrocrete. The wall rose simple and stark, names etched in steel, human and borrowed alien script from salvaged Carrick's plates. Symbols of the fallen invaders twisted into markers of shared ruin. She traced Luca's name first, fingers lingering on the letters, the metal cool under her calloused skin. Beside it, Elena Kuznetsova's, Sophia's loss, a quiet addition at the Admiral's insistence, and woven in, those jagged Carrick's glyphs, reminders that even monsters had ends. No speeches, no crowds, just the wind and the weight. Maya had turned down the next command billet, the offers of campaigns against splinter threats. Reconstruction instead, hands in the dirt, rebuilding what brutality had broken. Her flaw, that fierce protectiveness, had cost too much. Now it would mend. She turned from the wall, steps steady toward the work crews waiting beyond the rise. Deep in a fortified UN lab, Elias sat at the console, the glow casting shadows on his face. The room was sealed, but the pressure leaked in anyway. Diplomatic whispers from leaders, veiled requests to resurrect the backdoor code. For deterrence, they said, to keep the stars honest. His fingers hovered over the interface, the encrypted vault pulsing with potential, a galaxy's fragility at humanity's whim. He hesitated, the weight of billions, alien lives, unborn worlds, pressing like gravity. Survival had demanded monsters. Now, in peace, would they build on shards? Elias leaned back, the decision a silent fracture, the console's hum the only witness.